Money didn't start with gold, banks, or even coins. It began with a problem. Humans needed a way to store value, trade with strangers, and remember who owed what. And the very first solution? Rocks, not fancy rocks, just rocks. The problem before money. Thousands of years ago, life was simple. Too simple. You hunted, I farmed, someone else made tools. But without a trade system, life was also incredibly inefficient. Imagine wanting a new spear, but the spear maker doesn't want your vegetables today. No match, no deal. That system, called barter, collapsed the moment two people didn't want what the other offered. So the question became, how do we create a universal yes, even when nobody wants the other person's stuff? Stone money. The first receipt. On Yap Island in Micronesia, the ancient Yapese solved this with rye stones, massive stone wheels, some the size of cars. They didn't carry them. Often the stones stayed in place for generations. What mattered wasn't the stone itself. It was everyone agreeing who the stone belonged to. This was the beginning of financial technology. Not apps, not banks, not blockchain, but shared memory. The important part wasn't the object. It was trust. The evolution. Smaller, smarter, faster. Every civilization then tried to improve the system. Mesopotamia created clay tablets to record debts, basically the first spreadsheets. Egypt used grain banks, storing wheat and barley for future withdrawal. China minted the first real coins, round, metal, stamped by the emperor. Coins were brilliant for one simple reason. You no longer needed to trust your neighbor. You trusted the stamp. A king's stamp meant value. A government's mark meant power. The people who controlled the mint controlled the economy and the empire. The birth of bad money and why it mattered. But here's the twist. Governments learned fast that if you controlled the money, you could cheat with the money. Ancient Rome diluted their silver coins with cheaper metals. At first, nobody noticed. But when too many bad coins circulated, merchants raised prices. The value of money fell. The empire's economy cracked. Inflation wasn't invented in the 1900s. It started with emperors lying on coins. The lesson from part 1. Money isn't about metal, paper, or numbers on a screen. Money is about trust, scarcity, and the belief that tomorrow it will still have value. From stones to metal to empires, it was all leading to something much bigger. And that something would rewrite the entire financial world. If part 1 was about how money began, part 2 is the story of how banks, debt, and interest reshaped the world and created the economy we live in today. Grab a chair. This is the part where money becomes power. The first bankers, temple priests. Before banks were glass buildings with security guards, they were temples. In Babylon and Sumer, people stored grain and silver in temples not because they were holy, but because temples had guards and reputation. Temples became vaults. Vaults became accounts. Accounts turned into loans. And suddenly, priests weren't only spiritual leaders, they were early bankers. The invention of interest. The priests then discovered something revolutionary. You can rent money. This became interest. The price of borrowing value today in exchange for more value tomorrow. If you've ever paid a credit card bill, congratulations. You're participating in a 4,000-year-old idea. The medieval revolution. Bankers take over Europe, jump to the Middle Ages. Trade explodes. Merchants travel across continents, which makes carrying bags of gold extremely dangerous. So Italian families like the Medici create banca, bank tables, where merchants could deposit gold in one city and withdraw it in another using a simple slip of paper. These slips became the ancestors of checks, wire transfers, and even SWIFT codes. And for the first time, money became mobile. The big shift. Money that doesn't exist. Then something even bigger happened. Banks realized that not all depositors withdraw at the same time. So they began loaning out more money than they actually had in the vault. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking. The system the entire world still uses. It's bold, it's risky, it's genius, and it built modern capitalism. The power of debt, building nations. Debt funded everything. The age of exploration, railroads, factories, wars, governments. Debt allowed nations to build today and pay later, a superpower far more important than gold. The central bank, the final evolution. But with great power comes financial disasters, bank runs, panics, depressions. So countries created central banks, like the Bank of England, 1694, and the Federal Reserve, 1913, to control money supply, interest rates, stability of banks. Central banks became the referees of the financial game.